All right, so question number 3, we're asked, what is the order of quadrants in a graph? Okay, so first, let's draw this graph. So normally, the vertical axis will have y to minus y. Horizontal axis will have x to minus x, right? And so when we go through a graph like this, we have 4 different quadrants, and we usually start from, so this position here is usually 0, and then we move counterclockwise around the graph, so that we have pi over 2, pi, and 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi, or sometimes that's in radians. We can also think of this in degrees, obviously, so we have 0 degrees here, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, don't have anywhere to write this, 270 degrees, or 360 degrees. Okay, so yeah, that tells you go around counterclockwise in this circle. So that's how we label the quadrants. Then we label them starting in this first quadrant, right? You go through the first quadrant. So this is Q1. We usually use Roman numerals. Then we have the second quadrant. So this is Q2. Go through the third quadrant, Q3, and finally the fourth quadrant here, we have Q4. So that's Roman numerals for 4. I wrote 2 instead of 2 in Roman numerals, but here we go. Okay, and so basically, I guess the last thing that we have to label here, that this example labeled is when you're in a quadrant, you're able to tell automatically what sign x and y are in the quadrant. So we're on the positive half of the x-axis, and we're also in the positive half of the y-axis. So in the first quadrant, we have positive x and positive y. In the second quadrant, we're still in the positive half of the y-axis, but now we're in the negative half of the x-axis. We have negative x and positive y, as I said. The third quadrant, we have both negative x and negative y. And in the fourth quadrant, we have positive x and negative y. Okay? So basically answering the original question, what is the order of quadrants in a graph? Well, if we move from counterclockwise around the plot, around the graph from 0, we get quadrant 1 here, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Okay? Don't need those. And I think that's everything. Let's read through the solution here. So the Cartesian plane is a two-dimensional graph that contains all the negative and positive values of x and y. So based on these values, the Cartesian plane is divided into 4 different sections, called quadrants, and they are bounded by the x and y axes. So the first quadrant is the upper right corner of the graph, as we said, this quadrant here. And it's basically just talking about the positive and negative versions of x and y, which we've already talked about, so you can move on from that. Yes, and they are labeled from counterclockwise, or in a counterclockwise manner, so around the circle. All right, correct solution. And we're good for that question.